Welcome to the culture clash.
What is going on, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Culture Clash. We got another, you could say, unflinching edition of the Culture Clash on the Pryce Podcast. But tonight, we will confront one of the most consequential battles for the future of our nation and the church: the expansion of public health mandates, from lockdowns and mask requirements to vaccine policies. During crises like COVID-19 and beyond, we will examine the historical foundations of public health authority and its transformation into tools of centralized control. The ideological shifts that reframed health policy from targeted protection to broad corrosion, and the profound tensions this creates with individual liberty, informed consent, parental rights, bodily autonomy, economic stability, social cohesion, and fidelity to biblical principles of authority and conscience. We proceed without evasion, without difference to institutional narratives, and without allegiance to any faction. Only with history, empirical data, ethical analysis, and a clear-eyed assessment of long-term implications for the United States in 2026 and beyond. Now let's begin with the historical trajectory. Without difference to for much of America's history, public health measures addressed clear, immediate threats through targeted, temporary actions rooted in common law principles like those in Jacobson v. Massachusetts. Early responses emphasized local authority, voluntary compliance, and respect for natural rights. Government's role was limited to restraining harm while preserving ordered liberty under God. The pivotal turning point accelerated into the 20th century with the growth of the administrative state power and yes, I said and, dramatically during the 2020 COVID-19 pandemic. With widespread lockdowns, business closures, school shutdowns, masked mandates, with which nobody liked. Personally, I didn't like it whatsoever. I said, nah, forget it. Did I wear? Yeah, I did. Only because of work, and they said, hey, wear it or you get fired. So I was like, all right, fine. I was what? 20? Turning 20? Well, yeah, I was 20. Not really that political. I said, forget it. I don't care. But I did not like it whatsoever. And vaccine requirements imposed on millions. Now, I will tell you this. I got the first vaccine. But, obviously there is a but. I only did it because my mom scheduled it for me. So I was like, you know what? I'm not going to disappoint my mom. But anything after that, I did not get it. I thought the vaccines were stupid. And we have seen what I mean. Or, how do I say this? We've seen the implications of it. So, yeah. A lot of people took it. And then they went on to get boosters and everything like that. Some people, they had to do it for their jobs. Like both my parents both worked in the healthcare field, so they had to get it. But yeah. Yes, it is what it is, you know? It is what it is. Now, What began as emergency measures evolved into expansive policies influenced by global health organizations, modeling from certain nations and alliances between government, corporations, media, and public health bureaucrats. Concepts of public safety and equity reframed policy as social engineering, often sidelighting dissidents, religious exemptions, or alternative treatments. Now, the cultural and institutional capture was shift. Major health agencies, media, tech platforms, unions, and corporations enforced compliance. Terms like misinformation and greater good reshaped discourse, often suppressing debates on efficacy, natural immunity, or long-term risks. Dissenting scientists, doctors, parents, and believers questioning mandates faced censorship, job loss, or social ostracism. Ostracism. That's it. And many other podcasters during the time were defunded, demonetized. That's what it is. They were demonetized. Channels gone, erased, no longer accessible. Some people banned on YouTube forever. Like they can't have a YouTube account whatsoever. Um, and so all this other stuff that happened, it was wild. Okay, but now we turn to the empirical realities that grounded this debate. As of 2025, 2026, data on COVID era policies revealed mixed outcomes and significant costs. While vaccines provided some additional protection against severe outcomes, estimates of 33 to 55% effectiveness against certain hospitalizations in updated formulations. And if you ask me, that's not a good number. Only 33 to 55%? Yeah, that's not a good number to rely on. For me, at least, at the very lowest, where I could be like, I can start leaning towards a yes. Yo, I need to see 70%, at least a 70% effectiveness at the very least. If there's anything under, I'm like, no. 70% was when I'll start um saying yes. But yeah, for me to say give it an absolute yes, obviously it needs to be like 95% or more. But for me to lean even more, I'll give it like 85%. If there's 85% effectiveness, okay. Go with caution. But I would more than likely do it. But like I said, if it's a 95%, okay, let's go ahead and do it, right? But yeah, it's wild. Broader mandates coincided with persistent questions about overall impact. Excess death tolls, excess deaths rose in various periods past rollout. In some analysis, lockdowns showed marginal or limited effect on morality in multiple, and I mean multiple, meta reviews, while causing documented vaccine injuries. Myocarditis. Oh, I actually said it right. Myocarditis risks, particularly in young males, and eroded public trust in institutions. Parental and worker pushback led to legal challenges, policy reversals, and growing skepticism toward future mandates. Now, for all of you who don't know, myocarditis, basically, if you get it, your lifespan is like cut in like 8 years or something like that. Or it's something wild. Okay, it's something wild, but it is crazy. Myocarditis. It's a scary thing, very scary. But that's what some vaccine, the COVID vaccine, did. Where I believe it's if it entered your liver, if I'm not mistaken, it would actually start like destroying the liver cells or whatever. Something. I'm not that big informative on a lot of health, especially all the health terms. Oh my gosh. But myocarditis, I've been hearing it a lot. Not good for you whatsoever. All right. Now, this brings us to the fundamental clash. Public health is not merely technical administration, but intersects with human dignity, family, authority, and limited government. Ooh. Traditional approaches prioritize targeted protection, voluntary measures, informed consent, and accountability. Mandate driven frameworks often prioritize collective compliance, modeling, and centralized power, frequently overriding individual conscience, biological realities, or parental sovereignty, even as evidence of net harms mounted in certain domains. And that is the scary part, right? So we have all these mandates out here, and almost every single one overrid, like I said, individual conscience. You could say, oh no, you know what, that's not something for me. They'll be like, oh well, you still got to do it, or you lose your job, you lose your source of income, you lose everything, you lose the family, you lose the house and all that. It's a lot of stuff. It gave the government power it didn't need to have. Plain and simple. Me, I like a limited government. I don't need the government in my business. Yes, I live in the land, so I will pay the taxes so that way they could um, continue to improve the land and all that other stuff and all that good stuff. But personally, I don't need the government for every single little thing. Socialism. I made a video about it earlier. Not even gonna get too big into it, but socialism is a problem that needs to be eradicated uh, immediately. Right. But the government was given way, way, way too much power. Like I said, it overrid your individual conscience. Whether you think it is good or not, they said we don't care. Gotta do it. The biological realities. Myocarditis in young males started showing up. They didn't care. They just kept pushing the vaccine down everybody's throats. Now, for me, I was able to get, like I said, I got one because my mom scheduled it for me because, she's a health freak, okay? She scheduled it for me. I said, okay, because my mom did it, I'm respect my mother and just get the vaccine, the first vaccine. Now, did I get anything else? No, I was not getting any other vaccine. I did not care for any of them. They scheduled the second one. I purposely missed it because I went on a plane and flew to New York. I mean, okay. And, overrid parental sovereignty. They shut down schools. Now, kids got to stay at home. I remember I saw this one picture where it was like this band in a concert. Little kids. And they all had this, what is it called? This covering over them as they're playing their instruments in the band. Um, It was sad. It was very, very, very sad. And now most kids don't know how to socialize because, like I said, school's being shut down. Kids having to stay home. They're not being able to go outside, go meet their friends, have it to do this 6 feet distancing. Young kids that were supposed to develop their social skills by going when they go into schools, or to really just go outside and socialize with everybody, every other kid, all the neighbors, and with the community. They weren't able to do it. They were stuck inside, and now today, a lot of those kids, something's wrong with them. Okay, something is wrong with them, unfortunately. But the evidence shows we we've we've gone through it. We've seen the reality of it, and we said, okay, no more. And here we go. We see we saw the harms of what it did, and now we're smarter. Let's get past it. All right, let's do that. All right, very simple, easy stuff. Now the psychological and ethical dimensions run deep. Scripture affirms government's role to restrain evil and promote good. Romans 13. But also individual responsibility, liberty under God, and the sanctity of conscience. Galatians 5:1 and Acts 5:29. Parents hold primary stewardship over children. Ephesians 6:14. Ephesians 6:4. The body is the temple of the Holy Spirit. 1 Corinthians 6:19 through 20. I was going to go off a tangent, but I'm not going to. So the body is the temple that houses the Holy Spirit. When you inject vaccine, it literally changes your DNA. 100%. Nothing you could do about it. It changes your DNA. So, what do we do then? Right? Yeah. I don't know why. Yeah, anywho. When the state imposes contested policies, especially on minors, especially, or without robust robust exemptions, it raises profound questions of authority, idolatry of safety, and the limits of Caesar's domain. How far can the government go? In it's in the book of Romans. I cannot remember the book or chapter to save my life for some reason. But in the book of Romans, when they're talking about taxes, God says to render what is Caesar's Caesar's and to render what is his, or render what is God's God's. Now, this raises the question, how far is the government's domain? How far must we render to them? Get what I'm saying? So, it raises a lot of questions, and then it raises a lot of questions. Okay, now Christians are called to prudence, not blind obedience to flawed human systems. Now, every human system, there's a flaw in every human system. I will say capitalism, even with all of its flaws, is the best system that we have. We need limited government. To have individuals have more control over what they do, and all that good stuff. Now, The nuances demand careful, and I mean careful consideration. Genuine threats warrant prudent, proportionate responses. Voluntary vaccination, which is fine. If you volunteer to do it, okay, go ahead, go do it. Forcing people to do it, now that's a different rabbit hole to go under. But voluntary vaccination and targeted protections can align with loving neighbor. Mark 12:31. Yet data suggests overreach, often correlated with diminished trust, division, economic fallout, disproportionately harming the vulnerable, and suppression of debate, which is another thing. They close people off who wanted to debate. They want to talk about it. If you had a right leaning view and said, hey, we don't need all of this, where is this all coming from? They shut you down. This other stuff. Undermining the very science and ethics public public health claims to uphold. Oh, yeah, man. Now, the cultural messaging has profoundly shaped the perception. Concerns about mandates are often moralized as selfishness or anti science, while policy failures or adverse effects receive less. Whoa. Anyway, receive less scrutiny, which is weird. Institutional incentives, including funding and career pressures, frequently overshadowed individuals' care and open inequity. Sorry, I can barely speak today. Now, broader implications extend to every domain, economically and socially. Mandates exacerbated inequity, isolation, and lost opportunities. Culturally, they accelerate distrust in elites and institutions. Spiritually, they tested the church's witness, whether to prioritize fear or faithful discernment. Politically, they fueled backlash and renewed emphasis on constitutional limits and religious liberty. Now, looking forward into 2026 and the coming. Now, sorry. Looking into 2026 and the coming decade, pathways must prioritize truth, liberty, and human flourishing under God. Restore focus on targeted, evidence based responses with rigorous cost benefit analysis. Uphold informed consent, parental rights, religious exemptions, and viewpoint neutrality. Reform public health institutions toward transparency and accountability over mandates, and support decentralized voluntary approaches and local control. Invest in character, resilience, and biblical wisdom for navigating crisis. Cultural renewal requires committing to health policy as a servant to the people, not the master, grounded in moral clarity and limited government. Let me say that. Let me tell you that again. Cultural renewal requires recommitting to health policies as servant to the people, not the master. Do not try to force a health policy onto the people, but the health policy should be subservient to the people, for the people. That's simple. The public health mandates debate test a society's commitment to truth, justice, and ordered liberty. It forces confrontation with whether coercion or consent better equips free people. History and evidence reveal the necessary and the necess- the necessity. Oh my gosh, necessity of preserving God-given rights and institutional humility, not perpetual emergency powers. Ethics and stewardship require balancing compassion with realism, protecting the vulnerable without sacrificing conscience, family, or freedom. This is the culture clash. It concerns not merely politics or statistics, but the kind of people and nation we will form. One grounded in biblical truth, personal responsibility, and limited, or one fragmented by fear, control, and eroded trust. History will judge how we responded. The path forward demands intellectual honesty, moral courage, policy restraint, and renewed fidelity to God's design for authority and human dignity. Now, before we close out, I have a little verse for you guys. It's actually the verse of the day. First Peter 1, 3 through 4. 3 and 4. Blessed be the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, which according to his abundant mercy hath begotten us again unto the lively hope of the resurrection of Jesus Christ from the dead, to an inheritance incorruptible and undefiled, and, and that fadeth not away, reserved in heaven for you. Always remember, God has a place for us all. Our futures in Him is much brighter and much greater than what we could ever think of. So trust in God, believe in God, and have faith. Because remember, even with a little bit amount, with the faith of a mustard seed can still move mountains. Thank you for engaging in this deep examination. Like the video, share it with everybody that you know, and subscribe if you are new. Supports independent discourse that refuses to evade difficult realities. Go to prycemedia.com. Join the Discord server. Supports in any which way you can. Check out our channels, what we do, and our merch shop, prycemedia.shop. Until next time, may we pursue the truth with bold conviction and clarity. Keep seeking the kingdom first. God bless. This has been the Pryce Podcast. Peace. Introducing Pryce Shorts, the sharpest insights and most engaging moments from the Pryce Podcast and Boy Basic, now in the palm of your hand. Thought-provoking commentary. Even in a fatherless era, faithful fatherhood conforms us to Jesus and builds his kingdom across generations. Practical advice for the individual man. Embrace Colossians 3:23 and Ephesians 5 headship. Entertaining highlights. Ooh. What a victory! All in seconds. Pryce Shorts, your daily dose of premium content from Pryce Media Group, LLC. Subscribe now and never miss the best bites. Peace.